Okay, this is the Talking Heads podcast, and today I'm talking with Johnathon O, Rose-Lyon. How you doing today? Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. Thank you. I'm very happy to bring my head to your shelf.
Oh man, another trophy for the collection. I love it.
There you go.
So you run a YouTube channel called Make Stuff.
Yep.
And can you kind of talk about that, like what it is for a minute? Because I know it's more than just a YouTube channel. It's kind of a bigger brand. So what do you guys do over at Make Stuff?
Bit of everything. Literally just anything that I'm passionate about, I will talk about. It's a lot of video essays. We do some comic books. We do podcasts soon.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm giving you a run for your money.
The first video I found of yours was a couple weeks ago. I had just finished reading like the last volume of Saga, and none of my friends read it, so I had no one to talk about with it. And that's how I found you. I looked up just like Saga kind of video essay type videos, nice. And yours popped up. And then I noticed you've only been making videos for like a year. So how did you kind of get into making videos? Why did you start with the YouTube channel?
My whole career has been just a series of like me kind of lowering, I don't want to say lowering my standards, but getting frustrated with what I'm doing and then like being like, well, I'm going to find an even cooler way to do it. So like I started out in film and I wanted to write and direct film. And then I was like, oh man, this is nearly impossible for like I was living in Ohio at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We're in Ohio.
Youngstown, Ohio, the film capital of the world. So I was like, this, you know what, I'm going to, just to get my foot in the door a bit, I'm going to try comics because that doesn't cost $5 million and take 3 years of my life to do one. Yep. Then I started making short comics. I made a comic called Neon Noir. I made a comic called Superhuman. They're all online. And each one of those was like, all right, I'm very broke. And so I can either like save up a ton of money that I can't really afford to pay an artist to get something done very quickly, or I have to rely on artists doing things at their own pace because I'm not paying them, or I'm not paying them as much as I'd like to. And so the whole process was like, you know, it was taking 6-7 months to get the art back for a 10-page comic. So I was like, this is not doing wonders for my career either. So I took another step back and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something that I can just do on my own pretty much for free. And so I started making YouTube videos, and I literally just taught myself. My first one was my Hamilton video, and you can tell it's my first video because with my screenwriting brain, I was like, okay, this script is 12 pages long, so it's going to be a 12-minute video because that's usually how it works out in film. But for this, it ended up being a 30-minute video, and it was fully edited, and it took 4 months for me to make my first video, but by the end of that, I was good to go. I knew what I was doing ish.
Yeah, can we go? Let's go back to the how you have all these independently published comics. So what was that process like to get into comics? How did you approach that?
Actually, it sort of started with blogging and like just. Whenever I decide to do something, I first feel the need to learn everything I can about it as quickly as possible. Like I just fall into this hole of just like learning everything. And so with comics, I started this comics blog just talking about comics that inspire. It was pretty much the videos I do now, but in written form on Tumblr. I actually started getting a lot of followers that way. It was me just dissecting comics from a point of view of like, I don't especially know the industry or anything. This is just what I'm reacting to. And I actually like started getting a following, and that gave me enough clout to start talking to some artists and get the ball rolling on things. And so, like my first comic, I just randomly reached out to this artist I liked, and I was like, hey, your stuff is cool. And let's write something specifically for you. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I think in one day I like plotted out Neon Noir, and then the next day I wrote the whole script, and that was like my work on that. And then that was actually the thing that was super frustrating about comics was I'd get so passionate and so pumped about doing something that I would churn it out in like a week tops, and then I'd just sit there and wait for months until the comic was done, which is infuriating when I'm just like full of just creative energy. So yeah, it was, and then I released that online for free. I've always been very insistent on putting out something for free if possible, and then the people who want to support it can.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm poor.
Oh, the starving artist. So I think you mentioned that. Did you say you wrote it like for him? So was that something you and the artist, were you working closely together on kind of where the story was going or what it was going to be about?
Yeah, looking at his art, because I had a lot of stories that I already wanted to do. But looking at like going through his art, I noticed two things. He had this really cool sort of like hyper realistic style, but also some of his art used these crazy, like very bright, striking neon colors. And so it's almost lazy in a way that I was just like, oh, well, dark, gritty, so noir, and striking bright colors, neon. So we made I was like, hey, how about we do a thing called Neon Noir?
Yeah.
Actually, first it was called what was it called? Glam Noir. It was gonna be glam rock.
Okay.
And I was like, I still love the like dumb contrast of that name. But yeah, so it's pretty much this. It's this comic that's like, it's modern day, but it's in this sort of hipster nightclub that is like 80s themed, and everyone's obsessed with the 80s. Hard to believe, but and then it's like this sort of dark noir story set in this very bright, vibrant setting, and that was entirely just because I wanted to take as much advantage of the artist's strengths as possible.
Okay, yeah. So it was kind of like you knew he would be a good fit for it.
Yeah.
You got a comic book you just recently launched, right? Was it called Suffragettes?
Yeah.
So was that, and you used something you called mirror format? How was writing for that? Is that something you had seen before?
Oh, no, which is why I wanted to do it, because I don't know. There's this whole thing in writing or making films or anything. Everyone says, "Oh, there's nothing original. Like everything is derived from something else. You can't do anything original before." And I was like, "Screw that. I want to do something original." And I've always seen this potential in comics as a medium to tell stories in a way that you can't tell them in any other format, because you as the reader control the pacing and control even the order in which things are read and everything. There's a lot of it makes it very restrictive in a way, but it also makes it so you can do things that no one's ever seen before. And so the mirror format with Suffragettes was this idea to do where every left page is mirrored by the right page to where they have the exact same panel layout. So if the first panel is in the top left corner and it's a square or whatever, then the panel on the page next to it the first panel is going to be in the top left corner, and it'll be the exact same size square. And whatever's happening in that panel will somehow mirror what's happening in the opposite panel. So what's a good example of that? Oh, so it takes place in 1919, and it's all taking place in this mansion. The left panel, there's a reporter saying, "So who'd you have to whack to get all this dough?" In reference to this woman's copious amount of money. And in the opposite panel, there's a fight going down between that woman's bodyguard and this would-be assassin. That would-be assassin is getting kicked in the stomach, and it's making a whack sound effect, and they're saying dough.
Okay, that's clever. Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah.
I like that.
So and it's like visually, like sometimes like a painting in the background of a panel will be in the exact same poses as what's happening in the panel opposite, or there will be rhyming dialogue, and there will be similar sound effects and image composition and all these different ways to just the whole thing. The whole story is constantly reflecting itself, which was it's hard.
It seems like that could
very hard to
make
write.
it like twice as long to even write something like that.
Yeah, no, it took boy, I came up with the idea in April of 2016. This thing has been in the works for forever. And then I think I got my final draft done in December of 2016. Writing off and on. It is such a nightmare just because there are so many factors that go into it, because not only do the panels reflect each other, but also they need to work as their own pages and have their own pacing, which means the panel layouts have to like this same panel layout on the right page that is for an action scene needs to work for this panel layout on the left page that is for a dialogue scene. And it's just all this just it was mostly me just staring at a page for hours and hours and just trying to figure out like how do we just match this up in some cool way. But the result is like this, because it's pretty much split up with the left pages is Bessie, a suffragette and jazz singer, talking to this reporter and sort of arguing the merits of women's suffrage and equality and everything, and having her own battle with this guy. And meanwhile, on the right pages is her bodyguard, Josephine, who is fighting off this assassin with like this doll mask, and he's called Dollface because it's the 20s and I had to.
Yep.
And she's having like a literal battle with this guy. So they have these mirroring stories, like figuratively and literally. And it was just, I'm such a sucker for weird structure and just trying to break whatever medium I'm doing. I knew this was a way to just sort of do something new. And I've never seen any comic do this or attempt this. And I know why now, because it's stupid and hard and terrible.
But seems like you get a nice payoff there with all that attention to detail.
Yeah, I was gonna say as a just a huge nerd of like structure and stuff, one of my favorite things is having something like that I can read over and over and sort of pick apart and find all these little things. And like, Christopher Nolan movies are generally very layered in a way where you can do that and stuff like that. A lot of good mystery films and stuff
Edgar
like that.
Wright movies, you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You get that rewatchability.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I really wanted. Like I wanted this to be, you can pick it up as like not even knowing what's going on in the comic, read through the whole thing, not even necessarily realize that the mirror format's going on. Or if you're like me and you're a huge nerd about this stuff, then you can find all this depth and layers to it. And so hopefully it works like that.
I'm going to be checking that out. You got a good pitch on it.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the YouTube videos again.
Yep.
Yeah, you said they were like video essays. How do you decide on the subject of the videos? What's that process like?
You know what? A lot of it so far has been dictated by me just wanting to keep the channel fresh and diverse and not getting stuck in this hole of like a lot of channels, they have to do film or they have to do comics or they have to do music because that's what they started out doing and that's what they stuck with. Now they're really stuck with it. And so from the start, like I started out with a musical and then I did a comparison of the Pixar film Up to the sci-fi film Arrival, which is hard to put in a box. And and then I've done like music videos. I did Saga for comics. I have a video game one coming up pretty soon. But a lot of it has just been, what can I do to mix this up a lot and also follow my passion and whatever I really think I'll be able to nail in terms of research and committing that much time to it, because each one of these things take like a month to churn out. So
okay, so you are doing a lot of research.
Oh yeah. Because I'm in the process of doing a very long Last Jedi video. I ended up watching every film and every TV show and reading all these books. I got a $100 paperback out of print production diary of Empire Strikes Back that I got for this video, which also that's why I like doing stuff that I'm already nerding out over and I already am passionate about, is because that's just a cool thing to own. I'm pumped I had an excuse to get that, but
yeah, you probably learn a lot of cool shit reading that too.
Yeah, it is very cool. And I got very good quotes for the video out of it. So very worth it.
So you pick your topic, Last Jedi, for example, and you do all this research. Then do you jump into like script writing? How long does that kind of take, and actually putting the video together and like editing?
So the script writing might be like I'm outlining it throughout all of the research, and I might do a rough outline before I dive too thoroughly into the research if I already know generally what I want to talk about. But the script writing is usually the thing that I spend the most time on, probably because that gives me the most anxiety. So it takes the longest. I with all of my writing, I have this very like anti-anxiety way of constructing everything I do, which is like write the roughest outline possible and then go back through it and add more details and then add more details and then add some voiceover to it and just keep fleshing it out and fleshing it out until it ends up being an actual script, so that I never have to really look at a blank page and think, okay, I got to put something really good on here. I just like keep adding good stuff until it's good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty organic way to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also very time consuming, but it's also really good for I'm very obsessive about, like I said, structure, and I really like to have some sort of setup and payoff. Again, that Edgar Wright influence, where it feels like everything needs to be setting up something else and adding to my whatever argument I'm making, but also I'm really insistent on sort of telling a story with each video. So that's what's really nice about starting out with like really vague outlines, is that I can go back and change stuff super easily if I decide, oh, this would be an amazing ending, and I want to set this last line up in the very first line, and just it really helps with that whole process. Once I do that, then I usually power through, recording voiceover in and editing it in a day. And then the actual video editing itself it might be more time consuming, but I can easily spend more time on it per day. Like I might write for 4 or 5 hours in one day and just be wiped out. But with editing, since it takes a bit less brain power and it's a lot more like, okay, I got to drop this clip in and then I have to change these numbers and go through all the motions for everything, then I can easily like blink and do a 12-hour day of editing. But I think I average about a minute per 4 or 5 hours of editing, like a minute of finished footage, because of how animated and like.
Yeah, I noticed you do a lot of subtle animations in there that gotta take a long time. What do you use to edit? Do you use Premiere, or do you use any After Effects or anything like that?
I actually use mostly After Effects. At Premiere,
Okay.
I'll use Premiere to cut up smaller clips or put everything together at the end. But I will do pretty much 1 to 3 minute chunks of the video at a time in After Effects, and so yeah, the entire thing is done in After Effects, which gives me all that range. Like, I'm very stupid with how I do videos, but it's like an inspirational kind of stupid, because it's like, oh, he can do it, so I can do it, because I have no training in like, I went to school for philosophy and literature and didn't even get a degree in those. Like, I've no real training in this. It was a lot of me just sort of learning as much After Effects as it took to where I can picture something in my head and then sort of brute force how to do that, like without using presets or anything, because
I can definitely relate to that.
Right. Yeah. It's just it's weird. It's this weird perfectionist thing where it's like, yeah, I could use this preset, but like, what if I want that text to come in a little bit slower? And what if I want it to have this much more blur? And man, I really want it to just have this elasticity, and just like, so I'm so paranoid about using presets and stuff like that, because I want to be able to tinker with every little thing until it just feels right.
Gives it more character.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with this new video, I was like, man, it'd be cool if the text was behind these characters here, but I also could add this snow effect. That would be really cool. And so it resulted in me, for like, I think maybe 5 seconds of footage, I spent an hour just by hand masking out these 2 moving characters in front of this.
So fun.
Yeah, no, it's a blast. Everyone should do this. It's real fun, especially with all the money I get.
Yeah, but It's like you need those things in the video though, even though they do take forever. There's a reason you invest time on stuff, on small little minuscule details like that.
No, definitely. And I just, because my whole thing is I want to inspire people to make stuff, and also to just like, I don't know, sometimes my videos are about like, hey, be a better person. Be less garbage. But there's always some sort of message that I'm trying to get across. And so much of the video is me giving people as much eye candy and make it as much as entertaining as possible, and just make it a joy to watch. And then like consequentially, they will learn some kind of lesson as a result. But like, I don't want that lesson to be why they're watching the video. I want them to be watching it because they like watching it and because it's entertaining. But then it's just like, you fool, I tricked you into being better at something, being smarter.
Nice.
You fell for it.
The puppet master. That's great. I like asking everyone this question. It's like, what is something that you can like watch, listen to, read, anything kind of artistically that can motivate you to make stuff, that gets you just pumped to go make something right away?
Oh man, you know what? I'm always drawn to media that kind of reflects that I know a lot of effort was put into it. Like if I watch anything by Edgar Wright, Tarantino is another good one where it's just like there's so much originality being thrown into this thing. It inspires me so much. Have you read Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run?
I have not.
Oh, it's so good. But that's another one where it's just like it's playing so much with time structure and all this stuff. And there's just it's those things that like where I start thinking about how did they pull this off, and I start dissecting it. That's what gets my brain in the right mode to start creating my own things like that. Indiana Jones is my favorite ever, and Star Wars and stuff. Things like that I know are just so thoroughly thought out and so complex and layered that just like get my brain going. That's like if I want to work, then I'm gonna go pick up an issue of Hawkeye or something, or Saga for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, so what can we expect from Make Stuff in the near future here? What are you working on? I know you mentioned a podcast. You got your Star Wars video coming out. You want to plug those a little bit more?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Exclusive to you. It's
here we go. This is what we live for. I don't
set it in stone or anything, but it looks like the first podcast I'm going to be setting up is going to be an issue by issue analysis of Saga.
Oh, okay, cool.
So if you have not read Saga yet, we're going to be starting with issue 1, and every issue we're going to sort of break it down and talk about why it's just the best thing. And that's going to have a very cool collaborator on it. And also, hey, we're probably going to be having guests if you want to hop on for an episode at some point.
Oh, I would be honored.
Please do.
To both participate and listen to this podcast. It definitely sounds like a great time.
Awesome. So that's going to be coming up hopefully probably by the end of the year, maybe early next year. We have a massive Last Jedi video coming out. Haley, who just joined the Make Stuff crew, she's now the other half of Make Stuff. She is coming out with her first video, which is a retrospective on the first Black woman comic creator.
Cool.
Jackie Orms, and who is this amazing woman. We actually got original art from a current female comic creator as the thumbnail art, which was something I was really
badass. That's a cool idea.
Pumped about doing. And so that'll be coming out this month. And yeah, there's a million things. There's always new comics hopefully coming out on the horizon. I just started, speaking of After Effects, I've become obsessed with the idea of a motion comic.
Ooh, yeah.
So that's probably on the horizon. I'm just trying to talk all of my artist friends into it. But yeah, lots of cool stuff to make.
That'd be great. We look forward to it. Johnathon O, Rose-Lyon, thanks again for coming on the show. I'll leave a link to your YouTube channel and your Twitter in the description of the video so people can come find you and go check out the great videos that you make.
All right. And I have no way of getting my head off this shelf, so I guess we're just going to sit here and stare at each other for a while.
It's the trap of the Talking Heads podcast.
You know what? When you first said, "Hey, will you please remove your head from your body and put it in a jar so that we can talk on my podcast?" I was hesitant, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna trust this guy. And little did I know, this jar was a honey jar the whole time.
The honey pot, yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for anyone out there watching or listening.
Thank you.